What if I told you there was a way to generate enough passive income in retirement to replace your salary without having to amass millions of dollars in investments? It sounds too good to be true, but financial guru Dave Ramsey advocates for the 8% rule, withdrawing 8% of your portfolio annually to fund your lifestyle. This rule of thumb suggests you need to save just 15 times your intended yearly retirement income to retire comfortably. But is an 8% withdrawal rate really safe? Or is it setting up retirees for failure when the next market downturn hits? In this video, we'll take an in-depth look at the viability of Ramsey's 8% rule. Does it allow retirees to extract maximum income from their nest eggs? Or could it prematurely drain portfolios, leaving retirees broke in their later years? I'll run through the math behind this rule of thumb using historical market returns. We'll analyze just how sustainable an 8% withdrawal rate is over the long run compared to more conservative rates. And we'll discuss variables like sequence of return risk and portfolio allocation that can alter the safety of this strategy. By the end, you'll understand why many financial experts actually recommend limiting portfolio withdrawals to just 4-5% annually, and whether Dave Ramsey's advocacy of the 8% rule puts retirees at risk of running out of their hard-earned money. The 8% rule. Is Dave Ramsey's withdrawal rate too risky? First, let's understand where this rule comes from. Bill Bengen's 1994 study, now referred to as the Bengen study, is where the 8% rule came from. He calculated that a 50-50 portfolio of stocks and bonds could sustain an 8% withdrawal rate over a 30-year retirement. Bengen arrived at this conclusion by analyzing market returns over modern history. He determined that even in the worst-case scenario, like retiring right before a major crash, a balanced portfolio could tolerate withdrawals of 8% annually and still last 30 years. This finding suggested you only needed to save about 15 times your intended yearly income to retire. To replace a salary of $70,000 per year, for instance, you'd only need to accumulate around $1 million total. That's far less than the multi-million-dollar portfolios financial advisors often suggest. Dave Ramsey latched onto the 8% rule because it offers more flexibility for the average American to retire comfortably on a reasonable nest egg. For middle-class workers struggling to save, it provides a light at the end of the tunnel that seems achievable one day. But nearly 30 years after this initial research, is the 8% rule still a safe withdrawal rate? Or have changing market dynamics altered the reliability of this strategy? Analyzing market returns over time. First, let's analyze the actual sequence of returns for a balanced portfolio over the modern investing era. Bengen studied a period from 1926 to 1976. If we expand the window of time to 1926 through 2022, does it alter the findings? Based on historical S&P 500 and intermediate bond returns, a 50/50ths allocation experienced an average annual return of 8.4% over this nearly 100-year period. That would support Ramsey's 8% rule. However, returns varied widely over different sequences. For instance, a portfolio experienced gains exceeding 20% annually in the 1980s and 1990s. But investors saw drops of 8-12% per year throughout the 2000s, and returns fluctuated between 10 and 22% from 2010 through 2022. Retiring at market peaks leads to very different outcomes than retiring at market bottoms. And portfolio withdrawals that are safe in bull market environments may rapidly drain assets during prolonged corrections. This sequence of return risks highlights the importance of adjusting withdrawal rates based on current market valuations. Blindly sticking to 8% ignores the substantial variability of returns over time. Factors impacting sustainability. Aside from sequence risk, several other variables impact the sustainability of portfolio withdrawals. Portfolio allocation. Conservative allocations with larger fixed income allocations can mitigate volatility risk that jeopardizes growth portfolios. The composition matters when determining a safe withdrawal rate. Inflation. Bengen's study did not account for the rising cost of living over 30 years, but at 3% inflation annually, expenses essentially double every 24 years. So, an 8% withdrawal rate dipped closer to 4% in real spending power by retirement year 30. Life expectancy. The average lifespan continues to increase, with many living into their 80s and 90s. Retirements lasting 40 years or more require lower withdrawal rates, so portfolio longevity matches life expectancy. Withdrawal method. Average variance withdrawals that adjust based on market performance tend to increase sustainability versus fixed linear methods. Tax implications. Non-registered accounts face taxes on investment income and capital gains. This reduces usable cash flow for withdrawals relative to registered accounts. As you can see, the reliability of Dave Ramsey's 8% rule depends greatly on the portfolio, time horizon, and retirement lifestyle factors of each individual. Stress testing the 8% rule. So just how risky could an 8% withdrawal rate be in different market environments? Let's walk through some back-testing scenarios. First, we'll assume an investor enters retirement with a $1 million portfolio, hoping to withdraw $80,000 per year. In an average market that returns 8% annually, this strategy should last approximately 30 years before assets fully deplete. But when we stress test various historical sequences, the results vary substantially. Retiring in 2000 before .com crash, portfolio depleted in 17 years. Retiring in 2007 before financial crisis, savings drained in 13 years. Retiring in 1929 before Great Depression, broke in 15 years. Conversely, retiring in the 80s and 90s could have sustained indefinite withdrawals. This demonstrates the extreme variability of outcomes depending solely on market sequence. Now consider how portfolio allocation impacts sustainability. All stocks, average depletion in 21 years. 75/25 stocks, bonds, average depletion in 25 years. 50/50ths, stocks, bonds, average depletion in 27 years. 25/75ths stocks, bonds, average depletion in 30+ years. More conservative allocations extend the longevity of a portfolio to better align with the expected lifespan. This enables lower, more sustainable withdrawal rates in the 4–5% range. The effect of inflation. Another key risk is the impact of inflation over a 30 to 40-year retirement. Assuming a consistent 3% annual inflation rate, an $80,000 annual budget would escalate to around $175,000 by year 30, per the rule of 72 for inflation. But when withdrawing a flat $80,000 from a portfolio without inflation adjustments, the real spending value of those dollars declines substantially. By year 20, $80,000 only equates to about $46,000 of actual spending power based on inflation and cost increases. And by year 30, real spending value drops to just $26,000 from withdrawals that haven't kept pace. This demonstrates why fixed-line withdrawal strategies struggle to sustain prolonged retirements. Variable withdrawal methods. So for investors pursuing early retirement or hoping to stretch portfolio longevity to 40+ years, what alternatives exist? Variable withdrawal systems that dynamically adjust based on market performance tend to increase sustainability. One strategy is to set a floor and ceiling based on the portfolio balance each year, such as minimum withdrawals of 4% and maximum withdrawals of 8% based on whether markets are bearish or bullish. Another method is the IRS's required minimum distribution approach. This calculates a percentage that must be withdrawn each year from retirement accounts based on life expectancy and portfolio growth. RMDs offer forces moderation when markets underperform. There are also computationally intensive systems that maximize sustainability based on complex sequencing algorithms. But simpler variable approaches generally suffice for managing sequence and longevity risk. Finding the right personal balance. So what should investors make of Dave Ramsey's 8% rule in light of all these variables? No single percentage will perfectly suit every retiree's needs. Personal factors like risk tolerance, longevity expectations, portfolio size, and fixed obligations all impact the appropriate withdrawal rate to supply retirement income without prematurely depleting assets. History shows sticking to a rigid 8% withdrawal rate in volatile markets can threaten portfolio longevity compared to more conservative starting rates of 4–5% with inflation adjustments. But investors with large portfolios in excess of their minimum lifestyle costs can potentially sustain higher drawdowns in the 6–8% range, adjusted based on market cycles. The key is striking the ideal balance between maximizing income and longevity based on personal retirement goals and risk appetite. Blindly choosing any rule of thumb without incorporating your unique situation can have dangerous consequences. Implementing flexible withdrawal strategies. In today's environment of high market valuations and record low bond yields, retiring investors should question withdrawal rates based solely on historical data. Building customized strategies that flexibly adjust income distributions based on market volatility and performance sequencing is key to making retirement savings last. Software models that stress test your portfolio across hundreds of market simulations can optimize withdrawal rates specific to your holdings, time horizon, and risk tolerance. If simulations show consistent failure rates for the 8% rule or 4% rule, you can calibrate your rate up or down until the failure risk reaches an acceptable percentage. This balances market realities with personal income needs. Online calculators also illustrate the impact potential changes in lifespan, rates of return, or inflation can have on a retirement plan, and many help convert lump sums to income streams by incorporating all the appropriate taxes, fees, and timing factors. Resources like these enable investors to implement informed, analytics-based withdrawal strategies instead of blindly following generalized rules of thumb. The takeaway on Dave Ramsey's 8% rule. History shows Dave Ramsey's endorsement of the 8% rule to be aggressively optimistic in many market environments. Unless you have an excessively large portfolio or a very short time horizon, sustained 8% withdrawals are unlikely. However, this rule still illustrates an important concept, that everyday Americans can realistically retire if they start saving and investing early enough. But to do so securely, investors should develop personalized withdrawal strategies based on their unique assets, obligations, risk capacity, and retirement lifestyle. Blindly choosing any one-size-fits-all rule of thumb without factoring in your own situation is risky. The average retiree will likely need to modulate their withdrawals between 3 to 5% most years, with infrequent bumps and dips based on market performance. This balanced approach can sustain income for 30 years or more off a modest retirement portfolio. So while Dave Ramsey's goal of maximizing withdrawals to live well in retirement remains valid, investors must pair this with an analytical process for developing a tailored, flexible distribution strategy. Implementing thoughtful withdrawal frameworks allows everyday Americans to retire comfortably without needing millions in the bank. But safely getting there requires diligent preparation and simulation, uncommon by generalized rules of thumb. If you found this deep dive on safe withdrawal rates useful, hit like and subscribe, and let me know other rules of thumb you'd like analyzed in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.